Hello and welcome to It's Not Over with Dr. Dan Farrell. I am Jordan, and we have our host back with us, Dr. Farrell. How are you?
I'm doing good. I don't look good on screen, though. For those that are watching by way of YouTube, I look pretty sloppy, don't I?
You mean as far as your attire?
My attire and my beard is coming out.
You're just getting seeker sensitive. I'm just teasing.
I'm sorry about what I look like. I've been working on a car today, and but my voice is okay. But nonetheless, I am not looking too well. I don't look very professional, and so I hope and pray that those watching by television, by internet, that you'll forgive me. All right. They say that ugly men need to dress up. Men like you, Jordan, who are typically naturally good looking, right. You can wear anything you want, but men like myself, we have to wear a suit and a tie. All right, now this week, as I go through some files looking for some documentation, because somebody's always trying to question me about how do you know that, why did you say that? What's been happening the last few weeks is very shocking, and I know you can't always trust social media, but I'm telling you what right now, man. What's happening over in Germany and France, and what is going on with this ISIS. I mean, when you consider that our president said, last year, they're like a junior high team, and then a few weeks ago, our president said that we have ISIS contained, and that very night, that's when they opened up with, about 4 or 5 terror attacks upon Paris, France. And I just don't know if our president is that ignorant and clueless, or if there really is an agenda that, because really, I mean, honestly, if you were the president and you were making these boneheaded comments and stupid moves about open borders and ISIS is a junior high team and they're contained, and everybody in America, every hillbilly in America knows that this is a real threat. Wouldn't you be a little ashamed of yourself? Wouldn't you feel a little embarrassed? Wouldn't you maybe even think that you need to try to cover your tracks? But I'll tell you what, this guy exudes self-confidence.
He also refuses to consider terrorism. He refuses to put the word Islamic terrorism.
I know.
Even though that when they're all going down and they're screaming Allah Akbar and Allah rules, while they're blowing themselves up or shooting someone else, why not call it Islam?
I don't know. And I'll tell you something else that just gets on my last nerve is they keep saying ISIL when it's ISIS. But the reason why they throw in the L is because that is their way of ditzing Israel. Saying that Israel doesn't really exist on an Islamic map. And so what that land area is supposed to be called is Levant, I think. And so by putting the L in there, it's ISIL, which is the Islamic community, whatever. So whenever you hear a politician doing that, they're either about as dumb as a box of rocks, or that is their way of disenfranchising Israel. And of course, I just learned that, now they're blaming many of these Islamic attacks on the Jews. I tell you, I'm not saying that Jews don't deserve some criticism for some of the stupid things they do, but boy, I tell you, they can't catch a break, man. I mean, they've been blamed for everything. They've been blamed for the Holocaust. They've been blamed for the Twin Towers coming down, and now stupid Europe, the leaders, are blaming the Jews. I guess it's just like they're their favorite whipping boy, Genesis 16, Jordan, if you'll turn there, Genesis 16, 11 and 12. Now, I want to read a few things that maybe our listeners need to have. This helps you have a little, perspective. 1968, Bobby Kennedy was shot and killed by a Muslim male extremist. 1972, Munich Olympics athletes were kidnapped and massacred by Muslim male extremists. 1979, the U.S. Embassy in Iran was taken over by Muslim males. During the 1980s, a number of Americans were kidnapped in Lebanon by Muslim males. In 1983, the U.S. Marine barracks, Beirut, was blown up by Muslim Islamic jihadists. In 1985, the cruise ship Akil Loro was hijacked, and a 70-year-old American passenger was murdered, thrown overboard in his wheelchair by a Muslim male Islamic jihadist, demented weirdo. In 1985, TWA Flight 847 was hijacked in Athens, and a U.S. Navy diver trying to rescue passengers was murdered by Muslim males. 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 was bombed by Muslim males. In 1993, the World Trade Center was bombed the first time by Islamic extremists. In 1989, the U.S. embassies Kenya and Tanzania were bombed by Muslim males. 9/11, 4 airliners hijacked, 2 were used as missiles to take down the World Trade Centers. So the remaining 2, one crashed in the U.S. Pentagon, the other diverted and crashed in passengers in Pennsylvania. Thousands of people were killed by Muslim Islamic jihadists. 2002, the United States fought a war in Afghanistan against Muslim males. In 2002, reporter Daniel Pearl was kidnapped, murdered by, you guessed it, Muslim males. Now, are you starting to see a pattern here? I don't know. I didn't read about any Jews. I didn't see any Baptists in here. Where are the Baptists that are doing this? This is amazing. It's just simply amazing. And yet, the Quran is not the problem, and neither is the Muslim. See, here's what I want to contend. I'm beginning to think that Islam is more than a religion. It's like Catholicism. It is a political system. It is an ideology that is being used as a sledgehammer against nations like America that has historically been Protestant America. And we've been a friend to Israel. But I think, really, tell you the truth, I just don't know if Islam ought to receive the First Amendment. Right. Now, I'm on dangerous ground now. I realize that. Let me give you an example. You're going to tell me that every Nazi was a bloodthirsty murderer? I don't think so. I don't think every Nazi was a bloodthirsty murderer. I don't necessarily think that every Roman Catholic priest wants to see people killed, and Jesuits and so on, but I am saying this. You're part of a system that historically can be proven and documented has been guilty of espionage and massacres and persecution. So I don't know that why should Islam receive the protection of the First Amendment here in America? We're at war. And you want to say, well, we're at war with a few extremists. Well, I don't know. The so-called moderates are not complaining. I don't hear them. There was a letter this week or last week that was issued from a local mosque that said, I don't know what it says, probably pretty politically correct, but they try to distance themselves from what happened in Paris, France. But there wasn't a holy outcry against 9/11. I'll tell you what there was. There were students at various colleges across America that were having parties because the Twin Towers came down.
I was out door knocking the other day, and I was with Charles, and I think he's been on the program before, and we ran into a Muslim, and he says, I am a non-practicing Muslim. And so, we started talking, had a good conversation, but I told him, I was like, listen, he's noticed that there were some Christians in front of the Islamic Center passing out Bibles and tracts.
Oh, yeah, good.
And he's like, that defends me.
Oh.
Like, that offends you.
Oh,
bless his heart. Like, yes. He's like, how would you like it if a bunch of Muslims were outside of your church passing out literature and talking to people? I was like, for one, it wouldn't bother me as long as there was no shooting, no guns, and it was peaceful. I was like, but you got to understand this. Islam and Muslims have an aura about them, a personification that most people think to be scared of them because of their all the bombings. He's like, well, I don't think that's fair.
Oh,
he's like, it's not fair that the few. Maybe I'm messing up his accent, but he's like, I'm not making fun of him. I'm just trying to get into the conversation. So he said, it's not fair that a few Muslims ruin it for everybody else. I was like, and he goes, what if there were a Baptist who went out and killed people in the name of your God, in the name of being a Baptist? Yeah. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll disown him, but you know what? There's no Baptist doing that. That's the thing. That sounds like a great argument, but there's no Baptists doing that.
But now there may be a Baptist, but where are the 10,000 that are doing it? See, look, we're not just talking about a half a dozen Muslims.
Right.
That's why I read this. And this is not all. I mean, our Marines started in, 1792, fighting at Tripoli against who? A bunch of stinking Muslims. The pirates that were raiding our ships and our Marines were deployed.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is a menace, man. Now, I agree. Before we go any further, because someone's going to shut us off, someone's going to judge us harshly. I love Muslims in the sense I love their soul. I love them individually, you see, but I do not approve of their hateful, hostile ways. I do not approve of the Quran. The Quran is not a neutral book. It advocates murder and massacre. And it does advocate that we're to wipe out, they are to wipe out our various, people that disagree with them. Ninth grade school assignment, join ISIS posters.
Wow.
What in the world's up with that, man? I'll tell you what, these government schools, when was this, Larry?
That just came in a few minutes ago.
This is ridiculous.
Ninth grade school assignment, join ISIS posters.
They will suspend or even expel a Christian for praying out loud. Send them home for bringing their Bible, but yet they're going to allow something like that. It's just insane. And then, I think it's probably pretty huge now, but Walmart refused, and I'm not a big advocate necessarily of Confederate flag, but some are, but they refused to make a Confederate flag cake. But then the same guy went in there and gave them a flag of ISIS, and they made that cake for him.
Yeah, Walmart apologized for that later and said it was a mistake. But, who knows? I mean, yeah, I understand. Genesis 16, 11 and 12, what does that say?
Genesis 16, 11 and 12. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man, his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren.
This is the beginning of Islam, in a sense, not the religion, but of the Arab nations. But, Ishmael was not the promised seed, and his mother was a bondwoman. She was not Sarah. Now, I'm so sick and tired of people talking about that the problem is not the religion, the problem is not the Quran. It is. It is part of the problem. And those of you mush brains that agree with that sentiment, you are not going to agree with it in about 6 months. I'm telling you, this Islamic problem is not going away. The problem is the Quran. The problem is the religion. And you may not think it's a holy war, but they do. This is none other than a religious war against God and our Bible.
I'd like to thank you so much for tuning into our program today on It's Not Over with Dr. Dan Farrell. We've been discussing Islamic, ISIS, and terrorism, and I believe we'll continue this conversation until tomorrow. Please, we advise you and encourage you to please check out morningstarnetwork.org. That is kind of like our umbrella website, if you will, for this show and many of the ministries at Morningstar. And there you can find Antioch Baptist College, which is a training ground for young men and women who are very serious about the ministry. There's also Lakota Christian School on this website. This is a school for children, training them not only in the Bible, but in also academics and education. And then there's also It's Not Over. I believe there's Delta Force, the Fourth Watch. And then there's also a link back to our main website, msbc.com. But we encourage you can give financially through this site, and it is I believe a tax-deductible gift that you can receive from that. And we thank you so much for being someone who listens faithfully, and we hope that we can be a blessing to you. Here's Dr. Farrell to close.
Let me say this. If we have Muslims or ISIS members listening to us, I'm going to tell you this. Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven, and he was a Jewish Messiah. I'm begging you as an individual, because your crony friends aren't around you right now, right? You better bow the knee and receive the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Or at the great white throne judgment, you will bow the knee and you will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father.